advising clients on immigration at a time of increased fear and tumultuous change. For my guest, attorney Giselle Carson, it is not just her profession, but the subject of her new book, The Corporate Immigration Advantage: How to Hire, Retain, and Thrive with Global Talent in a Competitive World. Thanks for being here, Giselle.
Thank you.
It's nice to see you again, and congratulations on the new book.
Yeah,
We
exciting.
should actually hold it up here if we can.
Yeah.
Um, it just was recently released. It's one that you've been working on for a long, long time. And so I know that you're thrilled to have it out.
Yes.
Um, the last time we spoke to you was, I think, just the second or the third week of this new administration. How does what you've seen so far comport with your expectations of what this administration would bring and do?
It surpasses my expectations in a sense that, I worked on corporate immigration during the prior 4 years of President Trump. And so we kind of were prepared for what was coming. But obviously his team learned a lot from those 4 years and came in very ready to implement some of the things that they had not accomplished before that they thought would be helpful for their platform. So I'm just seeing a lot of disruption, a lot of uncertainty, a lot of fear from people that are here legally and doing the right thing. Even U.S. citizens, I get emails saying, I need to travel. Should I be worried? They're U.S. citizens naturalized, like I was, or like I am. So it's just, to me, immigration shouldn't be a political issue. It's a national issue. Our country was built on immigrants and will continue to be built on immigrants. It was fascinating to hear the statistics with Dr. Ahmed, and he was talking about the growth predicted for Jacksonville. Well, if we close out the doors to immigration, that growth will not happen. In fact, it is predicted that about 6 million jobs would be lost if we don't have a flow of immigration. And I'm not talking about open borders, I'm talking about legal immigration, which is being targeted, even though it's not necessarily what we hear in the news.
Right. And I mean, we should say you are an immigrant yourself. You originally, we were born in Cuba. You first immigrated to Canada and later to the United States. You're now a naturalized U.S. citizen. I, I wonder if you could just kind of tell us a little bit about your client's experience. How are they managing? This is a scary time, as you say,
Yeah,
for people who are here with legal,
yeah,
uh, with permission, as
correct.
as well as people who are here without
Yeah.
permission.
I am honored and privileged really to have clav- clients that are inspiring, they're leading visionaries that do realize the importance of immigration and despite all the chaos are are hiring foreign talent because they know they need that foreign talent. They need that. They need to fill the gaps in their employment. But to give you a perfect example, client in Florida, and you may have heard. I think Dr. Professor Madeline talked about this. The parolees from Cuba, Haiti, Venezuela, and Nicaragua.
You call them parolees, but those are basically people here with kind of temporary protective
Correct.
status.
Correct.
Okay. I mean,
Correct.
parolees for a lot of people brings up a criminal justice
No, no.
reference, and
Yeah.
that's not what they
Thank you.
are.
Yes. No, no. They were admitted legally and they were given employment authorization documents. There was about 500,000 of them, about 80% of them in Florida, just because of the population, Haiti, Cuba, Nicaragua, Venezuela. One of my clients in Florida had 13 of those employed working. Great people that he didn't want all of a sudden. One day they were at work, the next day, without warning, out of work.
So these are people that were legally employed by your client.
Correct.
They represent from the countries of Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela. And those are, as you say, they're known as like CHNV
Correct.
workers.
Yes.
So what happened that all of a sudden they disappeared from your client's workforce?
They're in limbo. They're in
Because
limbo
why?
because the administration decided that those parolees were just not needed in our country, and they wanted to make a statement.
And so
Uh,
they basically ended the temporary protected
Correct.
status for those people.
They revoked their work authorization, so they're just out of jobs. So that's one example.
And how
And
does that impact your client when 15 of their employees don't?
just imagine, I don't know how many are here employed, but just any business that has 100 employees and all of a sudden 13 of them don't show up tomorrow or maybe they have 50 and 13 of them can't show up tomorrow. They want to work, but they just can't. So that is, and this is a healthcare provider. So these are caregivers, these are nurses, these are physicians. They're not and nothing with honest skill workers. But many of these people, we think that they're on skill, but they're not. They came from Venezuela, from Haiti, from Cuba, for example, and they're engineers, they're doctors in their countries, but the work that they have to do to get those credentials back up is a lot. So they start wherever they can start.
And so if these healthcare workers aren't showing up for work, your client then is obviously in a difficult position because they're having to fill those roles. But what do we know about what's happening to the people who are themselves now out of work? I think that this administration has said they should self-deport.
Correct.
They need to go home.
Correct.
Do we have any information about what's actually happening?
Yeah. For many of them, what they're doing is, and again, this is a little bit outside of my field because I even told my client, this is not, I mean, I can tell you what to do with the employment authorizations. You cannot employ them, period. So for those foreign nationals, I'm saying you need to seek independent immigration counsel to explore other avenues. For example, apply for asylum. I mean, probably many of them have an opportunity to apply for asylum because of their background. So it just makes things a lot more complicated, and it's disturbing, disrupting the economy, really.
Yeah. And I mean, for the Florida economy, you were saying that there are, of these CHNV workers, that there are 500,000 of them that are legally living and working in the U.S. or were.
Mhm.
80% of them in Florida. So what does that do to Florida's overall economic picture? And how long do you think it's going to take for us to kind of see the fallout?
Well, I think we're seeing the fallout already. I mean, when you have workers that cannot show up for work the next day and indefinitely, they're scrambling. So this is a temporary, I would say, a temporary effect right now, but it's also it has a ripple effect because it's sending the message to the world. Which we have been for a while now. We don't want you here. We don't need foreign talent. We don't need immigrants. And so, and going back to Madeline's, she was talking about international students and the 60 billion uh, lost in revenue and economic revenue to the universities in the United States. I'm taking that even further because what happens is my amazing clients that are visionaries and seeing what I write in the book about is that the absolute need for foreign talent. They're hiring this foreign talented individuals or not workers, students that are coming out of our universities, if they can come and if they can graduate. If they cannot stay in the United States, that's a 2 trillion economic deficit because about 50% of the students in STEM fields in the United States right now are foreign nationals. So just imagine that they cannot come to work because we're closing our doors because we don't have work visas.
We should say that the Madeline that you're referencing is Madeline Zavadny from the University of North Florida. She's a
Yes.
professor of economics, and she was on recently
Correct.
talking about kind of what's happening to the student pool
Correct.
because of immigration
Correct.
changes. And so, I mean, one of the things that your book points out and that you've noted previously is that these students who come from other countries, first of all, they're paying much higher tuition. And so that is something that schools are losing because they're losing those students. But also the durability of their interest in staying in the United States and working in the United States. Very often, these are people who come for graduate programs or undergraduate programs, and then they stay for years, if not decades.
Right.
So that obviously is going to have an impact. Again, I'm just curious: is this something that we're already seeing the fallout from?
Yeah, we're already. I mean, there is. I mean, the student. I can guarantee you, the universities are not seeing the amount of applicants. And I also saw it this year when we went through the H-1B lottery, which happens by the way, if your
This
audience doesn't know that we do a lottery for work visas in this country.
this is the
Correct, the H-1Bs.
H-1B visa,
Yes,
and those are for professional workers?
correct. Yeah, these
Uh,
are professional workers.
okay, go
Yeah.
ahead.
So we already saw a decrease on the number of the applications for those visas. Not enough. I mean, there were over 300,000. So Congress, forever and ever, has just failed to act on increasing the numbers of these visas. But many of the international students that are mostly graduate degree students, they typically their background is they have a bachelor's degree from their home country, say China, India, Venezuela. They come to the United States to obtain a master's degree, typically. So they're graduates in engineering, they're graduates in computer science, they're graduates in very high, and they go to top universities. So these are, I mean, for them, even just to be able to leave their countries and come here and go to school, they're already at a higher level. Um, so when they finish school, they get hired by by an employer on an employment authorization document, and then they apply for a work visa. And that's kind of a lot of the stories that I talk about in the book. Um, the book is not just legalese; it has some of that, but primarily it's the stories. It's my heart and the heart of many of my clients. Their stories as to the grit, the resilience, the vision, the passion to fight for what is right and for a better future for the employer and for that international student.
Well, if anybody knows about grit and resilience, it is you, Giselle Carson. You are a five-time Ironman. I think you just ran your 27th
Yes.
marathon in Rio de Janeiro. So you are a global citizen as well, representing for the United States. So that's very cool. Her book is called The Corporate Immigration Advantage: How to Hire, Retain, and Thrive with Global Talent in a Competitive World. Giselle Carson, thank you so much for coming on, and congrats again.
Thank you so much for being here.